Hey, hi, hello, my name is dis.cat. This is Project Hardcover, where we're letting books be the escape. Hello, lovelies, and today I'm coming to you with a very exciting tag. It's a tag that I have wanted to do from the minute I saw it posted, and I'm so excited to do it, and it is the Angry Queer book tag. This tag was created by the incredibly amazing Ivan from Sona Azra, and I will leave a link to his original video down below. Now, per usual, I was not tagged to do this tag, but as I said before, the minute I saw Ivan post this tag, I was like, I need to get on that. Quick thing before we get started, this is the Angry Queer book tag. This really was just intended and created for queer booktubers to express our displeasure about things that we see going on in the community and with books in general. So if you are not queer in any way, shape, or form, just let queer booktubers have this space, please. And with all of that being said, let's just get started. Question number 1 is to spoil some sexual orientations or gender identities of characters in books. And for this, I'm going to point out that Noah, one of the main characters from I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson, is in fact gay. Rye from the Darker Shade of Magic series by V.E. Schwab is some form of queer. I'm not entirely sure what type of queer he is, but he's not straight. He likes boys. Vicious from the Black Dagger Brotherhood series by J.R. Ward is bisexual. And finally, Liraz from the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy by Laini Taylor is asexual. Question number 2 is to talk about a book where the author was queer baiting. For those of you who don't know what that means, it's basically where the author kind of sets up these two characters and makes you believe and kind of leads you on to think that these two characters are going to end up together in the end, but in the end they just end up being heterosexual. They don't end up together, and it's just really, really, really annoying. And for this, I'm gonna go with a book series that it's not set in stone. It hasn't ended yet, so these characters could, in theory, end up together in the end, but I've been spurned by these authors before, so I really wouldn't be surprised if it's just queer baiting, and that would be Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles by Clamp. In particular, I'm talking about Kurigane and Fi. Yes, so for pretty much this entire series, Clamp has really leaned really heavily on the whole Kurigane and Fi have a little something going on thing, but have made absolutely no strides to actually make it a canon thing. I mean, it's disgustingly, painfully obvious to anyone who reads this that Kurigane and Fi have a thing going for each other, but as far as Clamp actually making it canon and just outright actually making them be together, I'm not sold. I'm not sold on it yet, and if it doesn't happen by the end of the series, because the series is still ongoing, I am going to be so disappointed and so angry, it's not even funny. Question number 3 is to name a trope or a few in queer lit that you would like to not see happen in queer lit anymore. And for this, I'm going to have to go with the stereotypical queer kids are in theater or some form of the arts trope. Now, don't get me wrong, I know that that stereotype is incredibly accurate, that a lot of queer kids are in theater and in the arts, and they find themselves, it's like a safe space, a safe community for them to exist in, which is hella awesome and cool and everything. I would just like to also maybe occasionally see a queer kid have their community be in like the sciences, have like a queer kid be head of the science committee in their high school or something like that. Like, that would just be hella refreshing to see, every now and then. Not every queer kid is in theater. Like, it's not true. It's not true. I'm proof of that. Question number 4 is, which queer book are you most frustrated about not knowing of sooner? And for this, it is most def I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. Like, people, the reason why I became so excited to read this book was because I saw so many booktubers reviewing it and talking about how amazing the plot was, how incredibly flawed and complex the characters were, and how beautiful the writing was. Here's the thing though, none of them mentioned that there was any kind of queerness happening in this book. And people, I don't think you understand how much quicker I would have picked up this book if I had known that one of the main characters was queer. I'm so frustrated about this. I'm still frustrated about this. Like a full year. It was a full year after this book came out that I picked it up, and just, I would have picked it up so much sooner. Question number 5 is, should cis-het authors be allowed to write about queer characters / the queer experience? And for this, I'm going to say, of course, cis-het authors can write about whatever they want. I mean, freedom of speech is a thing, and I do believe that cis-het authors can write good queer characters. Like, I've seen it happen. I have seen cis-het authors get queer characters right. Now, as far as the queer experience goes, that's when we start to get a little tricky. I mean, do I think that it is possible for cis-het authors to write about the queer experience accurately? Of course. It's just going to require a lot of research and just so much work. And do I think that all cis-het authors are going to go that extra mile to make sure that they get it right? No. So, like I said, it gets a little gray when we get to the queer experience. Question number 6 is, which queer lit book written by a queer author fell really flat? And for this, I'm gonna have to go with what is my least favorite book by 2 of, like, my all-time favorite authors. I'm gonna have to go with Will Grayson by David Levithan and John Green. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't a terrible book, it's just, it wasn't great. Just, I don't think that David did an awfully amazing job of making me care about his queer main character. I cared far more about the queer side character in this book than I did about the main character. This book in general fell really flat for me. Which, again, doesn't mean that it was a terrible book. It wasn't one of David's best. It wasn't the best. Question number 7 is, what are some red flags you see while reading or watching a review of a queer lit book done by a cis-het reviewer? And for this, I am 100% gonna have to go with when a cis-het reviewer harshly criticizes a character and then the overall book for how a queer character deals with the struggle of coming to terms with their sexuality. An example of this would be when a queer character is struggling to come to terms with their sexuality, so they do the thing where they are, you know, intentionally mean or emotionally distance themselves from either people of the same sexual orientation or other boys or other girls, that thing. When I see a cis-het reviewer give the character flack about this, say how I can't abide by that kind of behavior, oh, it's just like, you need to take quite a few steps back and realize that you are coming from a hella place of privilege and just, who you think you is? Who are you to judge how a queer character deals with their queer struggle? Like, who are you? Like, I know that you think you're doing no harm because this character doesn't really exist. It's a fictional character. But you need to realize that as a reviewer, who is putting their words and their opinions out into the ether, there are queer kids that are going to come across your review and see you bashing this character, and chances are this young queer youth is doing these things, is participating in these behaviors, because this is actually a quite common thing that queer kids do. You know, does that make what they're doing okay? No, but do you have any place to judge that queer kid on how they are handling the struggle that you know absolutely nothing about? No. So that's just my thing, is just, you know, if you are a cis-het reviewer, maybe just take a few minutes before you post your review and just take a couple steps back, look at all of that privilege that you got, and just maybe think about the words that you're putting on the internet for the entire world to see. Maybe that would just be a super spiffy idea to ponder. And question number 8 is, why is queer representation important to you? And for me, queer representation is so important because, and I touched on this in my sexuality discussion video, which I will link up here and down there. I remember being in middle school and just being so conflicted and doubtful about where I fit in the queer community. And as I stated in that discussion video, I think about what would have happened if I had had better access to queer lit when I was in middle school, and when I was just this ball of confusedness, how much easier my life could have been. And also, I have still yet to find a character, even amongst all the queer lit that I have read, I have still not yet found a character that I connect with 100%. I have yet to come across a canon pansexual character in literature that's not Deadpool. It's just, so, yeah. And that is it. That is the Angry Queer book tag. I just want to take this moment to thank Ivan from the bottom of my itty bitty black heart for making this tag. Just thank you. You're amazing. And as for tagging people, just basically, if you are a queer booktuber, tag, you're it. As always, thanks you guys for watching. I will see you next time, and remember, books are the escape.